Alrighty, what is going on, ladies and gents? Welcome back to the channel for another market update. Hope everybody had a lovely day. And with that being said, let's dive into the TA. Alright guys, in previous videos, the past few videos, I've been talking about all these SPY and IWM puts that we've had loaded up, guys. Today, we find out why those puts were all being loaded. I know things looked crazy, pretty bullish. Things were going to be going up, but guess what? We definitely knew that all of those puts, tens of millions of puts, were being loaded last week. They continued to get loaded yesterday, and we definitely told you guys about that in yesterday's video, that they were continuing to get loaded. And wham! What happens today, guys? What happens? Wham! IWM is all the way back down to 218 from just 223 yesterday at the close. All right, guys, things are looking pretty hairy ahead of CPI tomorrow. I don't know how we are going to be, reacting to CPI, but I'll tell you right now, today's close was not the best thing in the world. It is looking pretty ugly over here in SPY, and I'm actually just going to jump over to VIX. I'm going to point out we did have a wedge breakout going on today. All right, it was a breakout slash a break and retest, whatever we want to refer this as, or refer to this as. It is that. And if we do take out 1785 tomorrow, guys, if we get above there, just set an alert right there for 1785. Get above there, we're talking 1880 and then 2055. A bigger bounce can be on the verge of happening if we take out 1785. Over here, you got a 3-point move. After you got above the daily 21 EMA, it'll bring us right to about 2055. All right, so that's the VIX. It's looking like it wants to continue popping up tomorrow. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but with how we closed here on SPY and QQ, I think it's more likely than not that, yeah, we do see this pullback continue here. And then, I'll point out what we're seeing in this video, okay? A bearish engulfing candlestick here on SPY. Let's go over the levels, guys. On the downside, we are watching 621.53, 619.52, 617.87, 615.52. And 613.23, previous all-time high. I will just make that a blue level so it stands out for us. On the upside, okay? 623.01, 625.16, 626.28, and today's high is 627.86. So close to 630, we did not quite get up there. But as we can see here on the 4-hour chart, guys, we did break underneath this trend line here. It does look pretty hairy. We did make a new low underneath this 4-hour low, or at least it's an equal low as of right now. QQ doesn't look as bad, but it is, it's also not looking good over here, guys. All right, you didn't get no bearish engulfing candlestick over here. You didn't sell quite a bit, as much as SPY over there, but you did, you did still, it was a doozy, okay? This thing is probably going to either consolidate or continue falling tomorrow, guys. If we do not sell in the morning, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, PPI data is getting released. We had CPI coming today. If PPI, okay, if that comes in tomorrow and it just so happens to be hot, okay, this thing might get a big old gap down. We're not sure what's going to really happen, but I'll tell you, if you don't get a big old gap down and you even maybe gap up a little bit, be on the lookout for intraday selling, guys, because these are pretty ugly candlesticks here. And with what VIX is doing, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see this continue to pop here, at least for a couple trading sessions. Okay, I'm going to give you guys some trade ideas at the end of the video, some things that can move without the market. They're looking real good. And stay tuned at the end of the video. But as for the Mag 7 stocks, semiconductors, and the indices, and the broad market, guys, everything is looking pretty hairy headed into tomorrow. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We went over the levels on SPY. Let's go over the levels here on QQQ. On the downside, we have 555.79, 552.80, 549.58, 544.66, and previous all-time high 540.81. On the upside, we're talking 557.20, previous all-time high, and then 560.80. Above there, we're talking 565. Like I said, not a bearish engulfing candlestick like SPY, but it is not a sign of strength, and it is honestly still extended away from that daily 5 EMA. So, yeah, I do think we're going to continue falling tomorrow. If it doesn't happen, I'll be damned, but, let's see what happens. Okay, IWM. You're right down to the daily 21. If you lose 218.41, we're talking 215.93 and then 211.95. All right. On the upside, 220.67, 223.01. Then you're going to have today's high at 224.23. Above there, 226.14. All right. You can actually also see DIA was also showing the weakness today. Everything really sold, guys. And on the downside, you have 438.70 underneath there. We're coming back down to 433.20. Now, I'm just going to say, guys, again, reminder, the fact that DIA did not take out all-time highs, 451.55, the fact that that did not take place tells us that this dip is going to be bought. We talked about that ahead of time right here on this day, I believe, on that pullback day right there. It is either going to go a little something like this and pop back up, or it is going to go something like this. We didn't know. Now we can see if PPI comes in hot, or even if, PPI doesn't take the market and that happens intraday, we're probably going to be coming down here and bouncing around this area. If this area does not hold, we're coming down to where this left shoulder would be over here around 418. All right. What left shoulder am I talking about, guys? We're talking about this inverse head and shoulders pattern right here. Okay. And it could go something like this. I don't know. All right. But you're going to see one of these arrows get followed. Okay. Follow the yellow brick road. If this area does not hold between 431.42 and 433.20, we are probably returning all the way back down here to 420. All right. That is around the left shoulder low. All right. If it does hold, probably going to be pushing back up. If it holds and we get back above 438.70, then we're probably on our way back up to all-time highs. Ideally, we do not tank tomorrow and we hold the daily 21, and then we, get right back up above 444.87, and then we start pushing back up the highs. But I don't think that is going to be happening with how things are set up going into tomorrow. It'd make a lot more sense to sell a little bit here, see VIX spike, see the Mag 7 stocks maybe come down. Let's just look at it this way. Amazon has been struggling. Amazon has a great setup. Amazon has no reason to be struggling, yet it is. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I have setups that, I'm going to be playing. They're going to be moving no matter what. These things are monsters, okay? I think we have some monster moves in the making this week. I'll point them out at the end of the video. You guys already knew about some of them. Things are moving and grooving. Okay. But Amazon, guys, it has this larger rising wedge pattern going on here. And I really wanted it to bust through this area to really invalidate this pattern, but it's just slamming its head up against it. And honestly, it kind of would make more sense to me to have a little sell going on here. It's just been moving very slow. I think the weekly chart on Amazon and Google, they suggest we have upside incoming, but as we could see, it's been having a really tough time. So maybe tomorrow, maybe we do march right back up to all-time highs on everything on SPY and QQ there, and Mag 7 stocks have themselves a day. But I don't know. With how SPY paired up with, how VIX is set up into tomorrow, I imagine VIX is going to spike and SPY gets some continuation lower. And I imagine Amazon at least comes and revisits 223.72, where it broke out from over here for the break and retest, before heading up to 228.84. So it makes complete perfect sense to head up to 228.84. We have a 5-point range we just broke out from. All right. That brings you right up to 228.84. Now, we're going to come over here now to Google, because Google is the other one that I think it was just looking so good. And, it's really having a tough time. All right. It is having a tough time. On the upside, we're now watching 185.41 above there. 188.71 becomes the target. On the downside, maybe we pull back into 180.77. Who knows? On the weekly chart, we have a lot of consolidation here. It's very likely going to lead to a move up, but who's to say you don't revisit right over here? All right, where you just broke out from right over there at 180.77. Underneath 182.45, we're watching 180.77. I think this dip is going to be short-lived. I don't think it's going to be all that crazy over here on the indices, but I do think with how slow things have been moving over here, it makes sense to revisit the previous all-time highs here, 613.23. Then maybe we get bought up. Maybe we don't get bought up. Maybe we slice right through it and we come down here and maybe we have ourselves a larger sell. Then we'd expect somewhere over here to hold, and between 590 and 600, somewhere over there, for yeah, you know, just that right shoulder. You know, you have that over there on, what was it, that ticker we just mentioned, DIA there. Okay, so DIA, you have that big inverse head and shoulders here. Okay, SPY, you kind of have the same exact thing, except SPY just, you know, it's a little slanted neckline to the upside. Look at something like this. Regardless, you pull back into this area around, you know, that's down at 580, but you know, we're above here. Let's just see how far we went. 14 points. Okay, when you pulled back for that, 1433. All right, so yeah, all right, so that makes sense with what I was just saying. 590 to 600. If we're going to get an equivalent right shoulder to what we had the left shoulder over here, yeah, we're talking 590 to 600 over here on the pullback. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case. I personally don't think that's going to be the case with how things are set up. I think Microsoft, honestly, this is kind of conflicted. I think this thing is set up to move a little higher in the short term here, or worst case scenario, you get some action like this and then you move up. You know, this is probably how it's going to go. And then you also got a ticker like Hood over here that, you know, I think maybe you spend some more time in the range like we talked about in yesterday's video. But I also think it makes sense over the next 1 to 2 weeks that this thing is going to start marching up to 110. You know, things like this. It makes me think, yeah, all right, pullback is going to be short-lived. So we went over Amazon, we went over Google there. We'll come over to Apple, you know, something like this as well. Yeah, ideally, you don't give up this area. You hold 206.24, you bounce off it, and you get right back up to 215. You know, that is the ideal scenario over here on Apple. Like a lot of these things, it would make more sense not to have this drastic sell here and then to just continue. But Apple, it really, you know, maybe it's going to move separate from the market, but it really never had that, you know, move with the rest of the market there that we've seen the past few months. Apple has been in straight consolidation. It finally wants to move up. I think it's going to move up. And if buyers are going to step in, it's actually going to be right around here. If we start losing 206.24, guys, we're talking 203.67. All right. But underneath there, we're coming back down underneath 200. I don't think that's a good sign there. You know, this whole move over here, golden pocket would be right at 203.67, 0.618 fib. But I don't think that that's a good look if we're going to come down here. We want to escape the consolidation, not get sucked back into the consolidation, because now we just have a massive range we're going on here. And it won't look all that pretty, okay? So that's Apple, guys, above 211.89. We're talking 213.48, 214.56, 216.23, 219.38. On the downside, 208.42, 206.24, 203.67, 199.26. Tesla, tragic. Tragic. We saw 1.5 million puts come in towards the end of day. 718. All right. 718, 310 C or 310 puts. Those came in for 1.5 mil. I want to say around 3 o'clock. Maybe it was a little sooner than that. But yeah, I think this is likely going to sell. It doesn't have to, but I think that is we have that look on the daily time frames, guys. There's nothing really to say about it. We definitely have that look, and the fact that you come over here to QQQ and you're still away from your 5 EMA, yeah, I think we're, you know, probably going to consolidate tomorrow, and then if we consolidate tomorrow, we hold like a doji candle right here, yeah, we're probably going to push back up to all-time highs the next day. All right, so that's probably how that would go. But, you know, I think it would make more sense to sell, you know, if we open up here, sell down through today's low, and then hit it with some continuation lower. And maybe we get some, you know, a bit of actual pullback here, not this sideways crap that we've been getting for, you know, quite some time the last 2 weeks here. All right, but again, you know, on the weekly chart, guys, we had pretty much, you know, all of that consolidation going on. I don't know, guys. I don't know if we're really going to get all that big of a pullback here. We just started, you know, breaking up. We had all that sideways grind going on there. Same exact look on SPY, just sideways grind. You know, if you pull back here, you're just going to pull back previous all-time high and get bought up there. It's pretty clear as day. You know, this area right here. Pretty clear. Maybe you come a little bit lower here. Maybe we get down to 610. All right, but I don't think it's any reason to worry. I think we probably have something like that if it's going to be a multi-week pullback. I wouldn't worry about something drastic like that. And I think, you know, we just recovered from this massive sell. I really don't think it's going to be all that crazy of a sell going on here. And I just don't think it's going to be all that bloody. I think it's going to be a little Yeah, a little slow. Like, let's look at it this way. We've been having a battle going on here, right? If you want the quick price action, you got to break through this whole area. You got to break down, you know, underneath 610 over here. You got to break into 605, and maybe we quickly get down into this area, 595 to 600. All right, but you know, this is where you have a continuous battle between, you know, every pop gets sold, every little dip gets bought. You're gonna have to get through this area, and if we can't get through this area this week, then you know it kind of tells me it's still completely on the table just to go up after this. So keep these things in mind, guys. I really wouldn't expect all too much from the market right now when it's making this decision. We don't know what the market's decision is going to be. After, we'll have a real clear picture. Again, at the end of the video, I have some really clean setups here that are taking flight, and we're going to be able to make money no matter what the market does, guys. That's how it's done. I'll show you at the end of the video, okay? All right, but let's finish up with the Mag 7 stocks, guys. Went over Amazon, Google, Apple, Tesla, and now we're coming over here in Nvidia, guys. The big boy himself, the king of the market. It needs to break above 172.87, and then it's off to the races again. We're talking 175, maybe 180. On the downside, you have 167.89, 164.50, and 160.98. Underneath there, 158.71, and previous all-time high, 152.89. I'm actually just going to adjust that level. We're just going to watch today's high at 172.40. Now, if we gap up and you start seeing this fade, I'm going to be honest, this has high potential of turning into a gap up and fade, bearish engulfing candlestick, massive bearish engulfing candlestick. You saw it over here. You saw it over here. You saw it over here. I've seen a lot of them on the stock, honestly, okay? So if we start seeing early signs of that tomorrow, I'm just letting you guys know that's what I'm thinking. You know, something like this over here. It doesn't have to turn into a bearish engulfing candlestick. You know, if you get a crazy gap up over here, once, you know, 176, 177, boom. All right. But yeah, I'd assume if we do fade that move, it's very likely that we're going to continue fading. You're going to engulf that candlestick right there. Okay. But that's Nvidia. I really wouldn't be chasing this guy. There's no reason to. But at the same time, it's not really a reason to get all that bearish. You know, maybe it does have that short-term sell going on here, but we can see it just broke out from a massive range here, and it is probably going to continue after, you know, 3.5 weeks of breakout when it just broke out from 400 days of range. Okay, very likely going to continue. Can pull back in the short term. If it gaps up above this high, it's already extended off that 5 EMA. So I would not be surprised to see, you know, 1 to 2 weeks of consolidation over here in Nvidia. And if you see a gap up, a nice bearish engulfing candlestick tomorrow would play into this consolidation thesis I got going on very nicely. Okay, so that's Nvidia. Like I said on Microsoft, it's probably only going to be a matter of time until it pushes up to, you know, that 510 round number right there. All right, if it does end up pulling back with the market, I don't think it's going to sell drastically here, guys. Every little pullback that's happened on the market, every big or small pullback, it doesn't do anything to Microsoft. So expect this thing to stay range bound. Don't expect it to break 488.70. If it does, guys, bigger sells finally happen on Microsoft. We're coming down. We're revisiting 468.35 all-time highs. Maybe, probably not, but maybe. It's a potential at some point that this thing gets a big fade going. All right. And then above 506.78, guys, we're talking 510 and then 515. All right. So those are your Mag 7 stocks, guys. We actually didn't go over meta here. You're pulling back into where you broke out from this previous swing high, 708.87. All right, guys, it's right on the daily 21. Underneath there, we're talking 699.05. That's a gap that was left open. And then underneath there, 678.67. On the upside, break above 728. All right, same thing we talked about yesterday. Above 728 brings 737.53. Above there brings 747.90. A lot of short-dated meta calls getting loaded, but I'm just telling you, they're getting crapped on. So, yeah. All right. I still do think meta's probably going to have an outsized move to the upside. But, you know, I'm seeing 8.1 and 8.15 calls get loaded here. We saw 7.25 calls come in today as well. But, you know, those are getting crapped on. And if the market gets crapped on tomorrow, those are going to get shat on again. All right. So there's going to be that. All right. So let's get into the trade ideas. First thing I'm going to point out is BAVA. All right, guys. BAVA is one that I think is going to start heating up. And no matter how we close out this week, if it closes out with this big green candlestick, all right, I don't care if you push a little higher and then sell into end of week. I think we're going to get another 1 to 2 weeks of upside. Okay, I think this could be a larger move over here above 117.82, clear as day. We're coming up to 125.84. That is where the weekly chart starts erupting. That is where we can get another one of these ripper kind of moves going here over the coming weeks once that happens. So we're going to keep it on the radar. But on the daily time frame, daily cloud is about to flip back to, you know, bulls territory. If we pull back into it a little bit, it's not the worst in the world. But I don't think we're going to pull back into it. All right. I think we might just continue going. So above 117.82, we're talking 125.84. But if you do pull back, expect buyers on the pullback around 111.60. Even if it gives back to hold today's move, it's okay. All right. You're probably going to find buyers there. It's going to be just like that when you had this big gap up and then you reverted back to the mean. But again, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think we probably have something like this loading over the coming weeks. So I'm putting it on everyone's radar, increasing volume today on this breakout. I like it. SMCI, big move. Big move. We're gonna hope we get another gap up tomorrow. No matter what happens with the market. I know we're just so bearish on the market. I know, Henry, you're crazy. What are you talking about? Why are you giving us things that are going to be going up when the market's going to be going down? Guys, because honestly, there's always something that's going to be moving up. There's always going to be money chasing something. All right. There's always a hot setup. This is what people got to get through their heads. All right. You don't have to sit there and focus on one stock all the time and go crazy because the stock ain't moving. All right. There are things that give you that move every single freaking week. I give the Discord plays that are going to be moving every single day. I try and do that over here through these videos as well. You just have to be patient, get through the start of the video to get to the end of the video where I give you all the trade, well, not all the trade ideas, but I'm pretty much, guys, I'm giving you everything that's hot in the markets. Even no matter what the market's going to be doing, you know, sometimes that does lead to these setups getting false breakouts and stuff like that, okay? But the vast majority of the times, no matter what the market's going to be doing, there are going to be stocks that are going to be moving and grooving. All right, so on this list right here, I'm about to give you these are some stocks that I think can move and groove without the market. All right, SMCI, definitely one of those guys. I think you started the move today, and if this is going to be like the past 5 times we got this similar setup, okay, this gap up setup, I told you guys over here, all right, if we're going to hold the gap up, then I think this thing could be starting, okay, but if we're not going to hold the gap up, then it's not starting. Today we held the gap. We had a gap and go, guys. We had a high of day around 54.30 right over here. And I think tomorrow, guys, we can hit 58 to 59 bucks. We're going to see what happens, okay? But, you know, I think we're in one of these ripper kind of moves. I'm going to draw some arrows here, and the picture's going to become real clean, okay? Right there. Right there. You know what? Actually, instead of me recreating this, let me just come over here real quick. Point out the trade idea I got going right here. Okay, I'm gonna come right here. Can you guys all see that? Okay, there you go. Maybe you could see it right over there. Okay, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 occurrences over the last 8 months, guys. 47%, 48%, 57%, 55%, 41%. This moving up to 67.10 is 36%. Moving up to 74.12, that is about 41%, if I'm remembering correctly, okay? All right, guys, this might be the bigger play than MSTR, but we're still going to run it on MSTR. SMCI has been starting to take off. The last 5 times this setup has came along over the last year, we've had a 40 to 55% move come within a week. So in this case, SMCI goes 70 plus by early next week. Buckle up and getting ready. And again, guys, doesn't mean it's guaranteed, but I do think risk reward is well worth it. All right, so that's just my opinion on this play, guys. I do think a bigger move is coming over here, and I'm here to take advantage of it. We're already in at SMCI calls, but today I ended up adding 4 calls. I added 8-1 calls today, guys, and I do think 8-1 and 8-15. Those are the smart expirations to go with. You could play shorter dated calls. They might go a little. Pardon my French, might go a little flipping crazy, okay? They might. You don't know, but they might. I think the risk is well worth it over here. This is, you know, we're talking a 10 to 20x kind of play over here, depending what expiration you're going with. If you want to go with weeklies and you catch the move I'm talking about, if it really happens like that, it really happens like that, happens like any of these, right here, and then right here, and then right here, any of these moves, if it goes down like this, guys, we're getting 30% weeks, okay? Any of these green weeks, you can see right here, track right up there. Okay, so this is 27%. This is 32%. This, all right, top to bottom, 37% right over there, okay? Any of these big weeks SMCI has, 30% is a nice number it likes to have for that weekly range, right around there, 25, 30%. Some of them go a little bit more, some go a little bit less, okay? If that is going to be one of these weeks, I'm just going to say, we didn't move all that much this week. We moved 12%. If we move, like, you know, a lot of those were 26, 27%. If we move that much, we're getting to $62 by end of week. I'm not saying it's happening, but, you know, SMCI is going to moon at some point, whether you like it or not. The thing is definitely set up. I don't really care about the company. I'm telling you, the thing is set up. It doesn't have to be getting, you know, the perfect move I'm talking about, but I think it's approaching. And we might be in for it. And if we get a gap up tomorrow, no matter what the market does, if we get a gap up and we don't close the gap, okay, you don't come down and test 54.30, or not 54.30. You don't come down, and let me just put on the magnet right here on today's close, okay? If you don't come down and test 53.17 tomorrow, then we're in the thick of it. We're in the move. I think 60 plus is probably incoming either that day or the next day. Same week. Okay, we're talking same week. But, you know, real talk, within a week here, I think we could see 70 plus if this thing's going to do what I think it's going to do. Weekly chart, like I said, definitely set up. Real clean. Trendline break. Consolidating above the weekly 21 for quite some time now. It's, you know, it's contracting, it leads to expansion. We haven't seen expansion in quite some time here. Even if it's going to give us just a 1 week wonder over here, I think we're about to have some good stuff on this stock. That's SMCI. Coming over ASTS, I gave you guys this way lower, and now you have it here. I gave it to you on this day right over here. That's $45. What happened today? It's at $51. Oh, look at that. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? All right, real talk, guys. 30% weekend coming over here. That's, again, just like we just pointed out, SMCI, guys, you know, we're talking 20, 30% weeks. Very possible. Okay. Right over here, 25%. Right over here, it's 25% of range. Right over here, about 25% of range. Right over here, 37% of range. This week alone, 15%. All right. 25% of range brings you up here above $55. I think 54 is incoming above today's high at 51.44. We're talking 54.05, and then we're talking 60. Hope you guys are making some money. All right, that is ASTS. The breakout level is 48.32 I gave you. Hood hasn't made its move yet. I think it's a coming. I don't know if it's really going to take off tomorrow, though. I'm going to be completely honest. This kind of looks unsettling to me with, you know, how this is set up here. I think it's going to do a little bit more dancing around here and then shoot up later into the end of the week. But I do think this weekly candle is one that is going to expand to the upside. That is how I think this previous two candle setup is looking. And yeah, I think it's probably, maybe if CPI is good, it happens tomorrow. But something to watch into the end of the week. ACHR, ACHR, above 1169, it runs to 1248. There you go. It's the actual trade idea was above 1105. It runs to 1248. Okay, it hit 1161. That was, I guess, first target today. But, you know, real talk, 1248. That's what I'm thinking is going to hit. This is previous all-time high right over there. All right, and if you get above 1248, goes 1392, and then probably $15. This is ACHR. Next one we're talking VST. All right, guys, VST. This is the weekly chart. Go show me a time where you're pushing up against all-time highs and you just stall out there and then you have a big old sell. Go show me a time. You're not going to be able to show me a time because I already checked. Okay? It's not going to happen, buddy. It's not going to happen. All right? You're going to make the new all-time highs, buddy. You could do it. VST is going to do it. Just like it's done it every single other time. It's not going to fall flat in its face here. It's consolidating right underneath these highs. Even if it's going to go a little like that, and then go something like that, it's still going to make this little move here. And we're talking 210, 220 is likely incoming. All right, VST. One, no matter what the market does here, I'm saying it's probably going to be holding this range it's got going. Break above 199.84 and push 210, 220. That's VST. Now we got APP. All right, I know market wanted to have a little bit of a sell going on today, but APP, I think, is getting ready for a big move. Above 361.76, we're talking 380.70 comes quick. It's consolidating here in a really nice base here. We got a 3-week base going on to almost 4 weeks. I'm sorry, buddy. It's okay. I didn't mean to offend you. Almost 4 whole weeks. All right, above 361.76, we're talking 380.70. BBAI starting to wake back up. You felt buyers off the daily 21 EMA yesterday, and I like the weekly time frame. I think we're getting up to 1036, one to keep on the radar. QBTS, one we mentioned in the weekly update. It's doing what it's done on most of these little red weeks over here. If you have a green week followed by the red week, most of the following weeks, you get a decent recovery and you test the highs. That would be us coming back up here above 17 bucks this week, guys. And honestly, with how it's moving here on the daily chart, yeah, I'd say don't crap the bed tomorrow and we could get up to this week. And if we get up there, it's only a matter of time until one of these big moves start up. I'm waiting on this big move, but you guys see the same consolidation here, reversion to the mean here on the weekly time frame after a big breakout over here. You guys see the same thing I'm seeing. Okay, it's getting ready for the move. All right, maybe it does want to come back down here, but it's getting ready for the move. I think it can do it. I want to see it push through 1679, and then it's off to the races. Above 1754, straight to 1977. Then we're talking 22, 24, 25. All right. Last ones, guys. Bitcoin. All right. It's doing it's trying to recover. All right. I think it's only a matter of time until we're back up to these highs. I'm going to be completely honest. That's my bias. I think these dips are going to be short-lived. I don't think it makes sense to break up from all that consolidation we just got done doing. I'm not even talking about the 2-month range here. I'm talking about this massive inverse head and shoulders pattern right here that just broke out to the upside. All right. This is 2/3 of a year. This is 2 months. Very likely not going to have 1 week of breakout and boom, you're going to come right back to 112K where you broke out from. I think the dip is going to be bought. I think MSTR and coin are going to be bought. I'm talking FUSD over here, Ethereum. It looks like it's about to explode. If it does explode and get through this 3.1K level, guys, we're talking straight to 3.5K. What stock is going to be bent from Bitcoin going up and definitely Ethereum going up? Coinbase. All right, Coinbase over here, guys. I think a move is coming. I think we're probably going to be at 430 all-time highs sooner rather than later. Maybe this week. Not really sure. Maybe next week. But I do think the move is coming. I think this weekly candle has the chance of expanding to the upside. Break above 488, guys. That was today's high. Break above today's high at 488. We're talking 429.54. It moves with Ethereum. It moves with Bitcoin. Both those are looking nice. Okay, there you go. Other than that, guys, you got MSTR. You guys know the deal over here on MSTR, guys. Only a couple days of pullback. You guys want to make a shit ton of money this month. Do it with me on MSTR. Real talk. If SMCI throws us a bone here, maybe a 10 to 20x is possible over here on SMCI. We're even talking maybe even on 815 calls. If this thing goes 70 plus, guys, premium's going to get really juiced. We're talking 10 to 20x on the table. Okay, but you know, this is how I'm thinking. 5 to 10x with the August 15s, August 1st calls. I think 15 to 20x is on the table. All right, that's what I'm thinking. But I honestly, you know, if it gets these moves I spoke of, okay, it's going to go freaking nuts. Okay, I told you guys 30% weeks. This thing is only at like 11%. Okay, it can easily expand up here. We could easily get 60. You can get paid. But some of these go way more than 30%. Some of these goes 40 to 50%. What if that becomes the case? All right, and if not this week, if this thing closes out massively this week, we're probably in one of these cycles here where we're going to keep going up over the next 1 to 2 weeks. This is a money printer. MSTR is a freaking money printer. I identified the setup before it started erupting. Now it's erupting. I'm telling you, every single week, we're probably going to be continuing to make these new highs. So dips are going to be your best friend. All right. Dip back down to 430, guys. It's a buying opportunity. 420 to 430. That's where you want to be loading up this guy, because this guy is probably going to be making new highs by next week. If not, end of this week. We will see what happens. With that being said, guys, Oklo and SMR are also looking good. With that being said, if you guys want to come trade with me, I am live every day. That link is going to be down below. If you did enjoy this video, please remember to leave a like. It's the only thing that really helps us grow on this channel. I appreciate it. I love you guys, and I will catch y'all in the next one. Peace.